Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa, I read, and welcome to my channel. And today I'm talking about all the books I read in the month of June. So truth be told, I did not read as much as I would have liked. I feel like this past year has been a real struggle for me when it comes to reading. So in compared to like other people who are part of the bookish community, I didn't read nearly as much, but I'm still proud of how much I read because, like I said, I have been really struggling. So I have read 5 things this month. In the month of June, and so I'm happy with that progress. We'll see how well I do in July because I do plan to really be more consistent. But anyways, let's talk about the books I read this month. So the first thing that I read was A Rogue by Any Other Name by Sarah MacLean. This is not my first Sarah MacLean. I have tried her in the past and didn't quite work out. I read like maybe a short story that I did like, and then I tried one of her Bare Knuckle Bastards books, and I read it out of order, and it didn't quite work for me because apparently that series you need to read in order. Anyways, I wanted to read this because this is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and Hades and Persephone are one of my favorite couples of all time, so I was really curious to see this take. And this one is a very loose take. They're basically brand new characters. They're not actually Hades and Persephone. But they resemble the characters. So in this one we follow Penelope and Michael, and it's actually kind of like a second chance romance or friends to lovers because they were childhood friends. They lived in the same countryside and they were neighbors, and so they grew up together. And when Michael went away to college, Penelope kept writing to him and they would correspond for a little while, but eventually he dropped off and stopped writing her, but she always kept writing to him. Michael falls on hard times because he does inherit because his father dies, and the neighbor kind of helps him with his estate and kind of trains him in running this estate. But one day, Michael, he gets into gambling, and that mentor tricks him, and he wins the entire estate, bet his estate, and he lost everything to his neighbors. So he has been better ever since. Throughout his adult life, he is determined to make up for the mistake he makes by making himself really wealthy. He becomes a partner in a gaming dell with 3 other partners, and he becomes kind of like a self-made man, because this is called like the rule of scoundrels. So he's considered a scoundrel because he runs one of these gaming hells and he's notorious for being a scoundrel, so on and so forth. Penelope, in the meantime, she's considered a spinster now. She's on the older side, probably late 20s, and she's had a serious engagement in the past that broke off, and so ever since she's like never quite found someone that really works for her. It kind of feels like she's maybe waiting for someone special to her. Eventually her father really pushes her though and says, you really need to find a husband, and he gets the estate that was Michael's for some reason, and so he adds that to her dowry, and when Michael finds this out, he steals her away and marries her. And it's about their marriage. It's kind of like a marriage of convenience because he really wants to stay, he really wants to rebuild and get what's rightfully his own, but he is really awful to Penelope. Like, he's kind of like the Hades character and she is the Persephone, and you know, it was almost sometimes hard to read their relationship, but this is very much like a redemption story. This is a lot about Michael's redemption and redeeming himself for Penelope, because Penelope does really love him. You know, she really stands up to him, and I did really, really enjoy this. It was hard to read sometimes, this one, because Michael is really hard on Penelope. He almost does it to like keep her at a distance because he definitely feels like he is not good enough for her. And I feel like with this one and the next book that I will talk about, that's kind of the narrative with these heroes, and I think it's part of because they are scoundrels and they run a gaming hell and everything, but just that they're not deserving of love. And sometimes I find that really, really hard to read just because it is frustrating after a while. I don't mind it at first, but sometimes I found the author drags that out a little bit too much, where, you know, they just almost punish themselves by refusing to be with the heroine. And I just find that so frustrating because by doing that, they're not only like punishing themselves, but they're also punishing the heroine because they desperately want to be with them, but they're saying no. And it just ends up hurting the heroine as well. And so I definitely noticed that in this one, not just this one, but the second one as well, where I'm kind of wondering if that's going to be a trend with these heroes in the series. And it was hard to read about Michael being so hard on Penelope. I found that hard to read sometimes. The other thing too is like when it comes to Hades and Persephone retellings, I prefer the story of Hades being misunderstood instead of a redemption story. So this is very much a redemption story. I thought it was going to be more along the lines where we're just misunderstanding the Hades character or Michael, where it wasn't that. This is definitely Michael needs to be redeemed through love and things like that. And so know that going in. I don't know if all Hades and Persephone, like, I don't know what the traditional is. I haven't read enough. I just always assumed it was a misunderstanding of who Hades is. From the Hades and Persephone stories I've read, that's what it was. It wasn't a redemption story, so I don't know. But I liked it. I did really enjoy it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And then I moved on to One Good Earl Deserves a Lover. And this one, we're following Pippa and Cross. And I really loved this one a lot until, like, the end. So Pippa, she is very different than your traditional historical romance heroine. She is really into science. She likes learning about the human body, and she is a biologist, or like botanist, I should say. She really enjoys growing flowers and plants in her conservatory, and those are the things she really enjoys. She just really loves learning, and she's a woman of a science, and she wears glasses, and she's kind of a wallflower because she's just so different and not a traditional heroine in society. And then we're following Cross as well, who's one of the partners in The Fallen Angel, the gaming hell, and he's also a man of science, as Pippa would put it. He is kind of the accountant. He does all the numbers and the accounts and everything. He's considered a rake. He's a womanizer. He just loves being with women. And Pippa is engaged to someone else, and she's really nervous about the intimate side of marriage. She doesn't, like, she knows what happens, but she's really, really nervous about it. She's really scared. And so since she knows that Cross is a womanizer but also a man of science, she goes to him and asks to be trained in the intimacies of marriage. And Cross is against this. He does not want to be a part of this because she is Michael's sister-in-law, and he knows it's like off limits. But, you know, there is this like chemistry between them. Cross really is intrigued by her and just really falls for her. And Pippa keeps coming back and trying desperately to persuade him, and it's their kind of push and pull. And I absolutely loved this one. I loved it more than book 1, but it really dragged on because of this thing where these heroes really deny themselves of love because they feel like they're not good enough. And I just did find this one specifically frustrating. It just got dragged out too long, and I don't even know why. I felt like there was a appropriate point to get everything resolved, and the author just pushed it a little bit more, and I didn't like it. Like, I was like mad at Cross because of that. And it just get infuriating reading these heroes who just deny themselves of love. I just find it frustrating. And so I ended up giving this one 4 stars because I was just like so frustrated with it, but I did love them so much. Like, it was going to be a 5-star, and it was really disappointing, but I still really liked it. I do recommend it, and I can't wait to keep reading this series. The next thing I read was The Lost Sisters by Holly Black. This is her short story in the Cruel Prince series, the Folk of the Air series, and this is 1.5, so it's between book 1 and book 2, and this is just, you don't need to read it. After reading it, I was like, I probably didn't need to read it, but I did enjoy it, and it's more from Taryn's perspective. So she is Jude's sister, her twin sister, and it's just about her explaining things in a kind of a sorry letter to Jude. In a way, it was kind of written like a letter, or it was written like she was talking to Jude, but it's clear that she actually isn't. She's kind of like maybe writing her letter. I like the use of stories in here, or fairy tales, in this short story, and it was just kind of her explaining her side of the story. It was short, it was quick. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it because I love this series so much. And then I moved on to The Wicked King. And this one I did like, and I have the copy here. I should hold it up. I did really like this. I was like a tad disappointed because I was anticipating it to be so much better. It wasn't bad or anything. I really enjoyed it. But like for the first 2/3, it really was sitting like at a 4 star. And I was really waiting for things to pick up. I was waiting for things to happen. I was waiting for more scheming and manipulation and politics and everything like that to happen. And I just really felt like nothing really started happening until like the last third. The last third was great. I really, really liked it. I felt like it was definitely picking up. There was definitely some twists and turns. I liked the introduction to the underworld in here, or not underworld, but the like undersea. I liked seeing that aspect of this world. At first I wasn't sure about the romance because I remember one scene, I didn't really quite feel anything, but I definitely felt things near the end. There were some like really good moments in the last third, like I said. And the twist at the end was really good. It took me off guard. I was really surprised. And it got me super excited. So this is like between a 4 and a 4.5. I am curious to see what happens. I'm curious to see what Jude will do. That's for sure. I don't know what I think after seeing that last twist. I'm not going to say anything, obviously, but I don't know how to quite interpret that. But I think the thing that I've established with this series is I need to keep my expectations low for the romance because I haven't been impressed by this romance, but the things that I love about the series is specifically the fantasy and the scheming and like this dark world where like no one's good. I love those things about this series, and that's because it's fairies. Like fairies are awful and dangerous and scheming, and like that's my favorite thing about the fairy world. So I did like this, probably more like a 4. I think that's probably where I'm leaning because the majority of it read like a 4. But then the last part was, like, I don't know, it's like 4.5, I guess. I'm not really sure, but that's how I'm feeling right now. And lastly, I read The Maid by Nita Prose. This was such a surprise. It was really, really good. I really, really liked it. I really just fell in love with Molly as a character. So this is a mystery story. Kind of. Like, it is a mystery. It almost reads more like a literary fiction because I feel like the story is more about Molly and the grieving of her grandmother and the fact that she finds a body and she gets swept up in this like murder case. I feel like it's less about the murder and more about her as a character and how she interacts with people. So Molly, she's a maid at a really fancy hotel and she just loves her job so much. She's just so proud to be a maid at this high-end hotel, and she's neurodivergent. She doesn't understand social situations very well. She doesn't read people very well, and she just doesn't understand situations and how to interpret them. And so because of that, she does get manipulated a lot. People use her for their own benefit, and she gets blamed for things sometimes. And that is the case when it comes to this murder in this hotel. She's the one who discovers the body, and you kind of experience the trauma that she experiences and her like struggling with dealing with the fact that she found the body, and also her grieving her grandmother. Her grandmother, it was just her and her grandmother. They lived in this small apartment in the city near their work, and her grandmother was also a maid, and her grandmother was really there for her, and she taught her everything she knew, and her grandmother was the one who helped her with learning how to interact with people. And when she lost her, you know, it was really, really hard, and she feels really lonely. And this book just like made me feel a lot. This book made me emotional a lot of the time, and I just felt for her. So the mystery is prevalent. It is there, but like Molly isn't like solving the mystery. I feel like the mystery kind of happens to her, and people scheme and abuse her and kind of blame her for the crime, even though she's obviously innocent. And eventually it gets to the point where like people help her, and then near the end you learn what actually happened. It is a mystery, but Molly isn't the one solving the mystery, and it is cozy, but I don't I wouldn't consider this your traditional cozy mystery. It's not scary or anything, but it's, you know, it's not set in a small town. There isn't like, there's a bit of a romance, but not really. What makes it cozy is the fact that it's set in a hotel, and it's cozy because Molly, like, she's the most cozy thing about this story. But if you like a character-driven story, then you'll probably like this. If you're not much for mysteries, you may still like this anyways, if you like the literary fiction and really strong characters. So absolutely loved it. I gave it 4.5 because the last like reveal, still not sure how I feel about it, because it changes your perspective on Molly as a character. I was like, it did get me thinking, and I'm still kind of like processing it. I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but okay. And it gets kind of mushy-gushy at the end. Like not in a bad way, but there were some moments where it just like felt a little bit too soft. But that's like my only criticism, like that's barely one. So definitely recommend it, and you should give it a try. So that is it. That is my June wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what books you read in the month of June. If you've read any of these books before, please comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about them. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you've not done so. You can follow me on Goodreads and Instagram. And you know what? I want you to keep reading. Bye.